Nigel Dodds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Secretary of State accept that people in Northern Ireland, those who observe the Northern Ireland political scene, are stunned and bewildered, and indeed angry at what Sinn Fein have done in reneging on their agreement on welfare reform without any good reason whatsoever? Does the Secretary of State wish to spell out now at the dispatch box the implications in terms of corporation tax and other implications of the Stormont House Agreement not proceeding? Because it's very, very clear that Sinn Féin are putting their own narrow self-party interest ahead of vulnerable people and the entire community in Northern Ireland.
Well, this is, as I've said, a serious setback. I believe that the change of mind by Sinn Féin is unhelpful and hugely disappointing. But as I've said, the task now is for the Northern Ireland executive parties to work to continue with efforts to implement the Stormont House Agreement, and I hope to get the party leaders together as soon as possible to discuss how we resolve this welfare question. But the Stormont House Agreement will not be reopened. We do need to press ahead with implementation. The corporation tax question is difficult. It is expressly linked with resolution of welfare reform. The bill contains a commencement clause, and there is no question that this welfare question must be resolved. The Executive must fulfil its obligations under the Stormont House Agreement before the commencement clause could be operated. But in the interim, the Government is proposing to continue with the legislation to complete its parliamentary progress, because we are determined to implement the agreement fully and fairly. But let me be very clear, Northern Ireland will not get these devolved powers until the Stormont House Agreement is implemented.
Mr. Speaker, I think that in terms of Northern Ireland, it's very, very important now that people in Northern Ireland, and indeed this House and everybody looking at the political scene, is very, very clear the responsibility for the current crisis lies squarely with Sinn Féin, who are reneging on their commitments clearly made and openly expressed in the Stormont House Agreement. So will the Secretary of State be very, very clear that she won't take this blanket condemnation approach or blanket blame approach, but she will focus on the problem, Sinn Féin?
Secretary of State.
I will indeed focus on the problem, and he's right that this current setback is the result of the actions of Sinn Féin, which, as I've said, are hugely disappointing and unhelpful. And, to be honest, a significant surprise given the enthusiasm with which the Deputy First Minister and Sinn Féin were promoting the agreement. But now I think we do all need to work together to try and get this sorted, because it would be a huge step backwards if the Stormont House Agreement were to be jeopardised, and it would plunge us back potentially into the kind of budget and political crisis with which we were grappling last year.
Mrs. Margaret